Hi, it's Pico and welcome to the podcast called How to Outperform Yourself. And today in the podcast, I'm going to show you how to win the most important competition that you will ever enter. I'm going to show you how to set records that you can accomplish. And 3, I'm going to show you how to get on a winning streak. But before we start the podcast, I want to let you know that this podcast today is brought to you by the Mi365 Weight Loss Challenge. If you're the sort of person that wants to lose weight, the weight loss challenge is really what it's all about. These are some of the incredible results we've been able to achieve with just everyday people who have lost anything from 70 pounds to 56 pounds to 42 to 98. It's a challenge. It's a challenge that really focuses on helping people change the way that they think, helping people boost their willpower and their confidence to really not only lose weight, but more importantly, keep the weight off. So check it out, the Mi365 Weight Loss Challenge. Just go to mi365.me/challenge. That's mi365.me/challenge. Let's put this down, with the podcast, How to Outperform Yourself. Now, I have worked in the field of personal development for many years, but also as a sport psychologist. I've been really fortunate to work with some incredible athletes and also teams. And one of the teams I worked with went on an incredible winning streak and actually did something which no other team has done in history. And that was the Arsenal football team, who went on a 47-game winning series, and they won the Premier League. And they were unbeaten. This was a number of years ago, but it was so interesting to be a part of something great, to really observe what is exactly going on here. Is it luck? Or is there something going on that's bigger than luck? I don't know about you. I just feel that the more we practice, the more we get better at things, the luckier we get. In fact, I wasn't the first person to say that. It was a very famous golfer called Gary Player who said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. So when it comes to competition, and this is the first part of the podcast that I wanted to discuss with all of you today, how to outperform yourself, how to win the greatest competition that you will ever face. And that is the competition that you have with yourself. You see, what happens with so many people, not just in sport, but in life, is that we compare ourselves with other people. So if we compare ourselves to other people, it can have a very negative effect on us. Well, what could be the negative effect of that? Well, we often judge ourselves and compare ourselves to, we're not as good as other people, and we become very self-conscious. And I've seen this so many times in sport that people will judge what they do and look at others and say, well, it's not as good as what they do. I feel that if you do that in sport and in life, it's like a recipe that could get you into a cul-de-sac, something you go into and it's quite hard to get out. You've got to go back the way that you came. There's nothing wrong with looking at other people and looking at maybe their reasons for their success. But there's nothing more powerful than going into competition with yourself. What does that mean? It means you're trying to outperform yourself. It means you set records, you decide there are certain things that you want to focus on, and you focus on doing the very best that you can in those things. And when you realize that you're not doing your best, you challenge yourself to do better. Look, for me personally, for years, incredibly insecure and wanting the world to tell me that I was good enough, especially people. It wasn't like the world. Wanting the world to send me a message saying, here's a message from the world, you are good enough. I wanted people to tell me I was good enough, that I almost fitted in. But it took me many years to realize that there was a big problem. Now, the problem wasn't really me. It was the world that I was trying to fit into. Look, we do live in a world that basically tells most of us, it's what I call society candy, that you are not good enough and you need to fit in and you need to be like the Joneses, whoever the Joneses are. I don't know. I've not actually met the Joneses. What I mean by that is trying to be like everyone else rather than trying to be the very best version of yourself. So a few years ago, I really worked out that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the best coach that I can be. And I now say to some people, I am the king of coaching. It's my kingdom of coaching. What does that mean? It means there could be other kings of coaches out there, but I am the ruler of my own life, and I will set myself standards and I will try to outperform myself. Now, if you choose to do that in any way, shape or form, it's going to be quite challenging because it means you're going to probably have to do things a little bit differently to how you were doing them in the past and always looking to get better. And why would you want to do that? You see, the people who do set records, so firstly, understand, if you want to be better, you've got to go into competition with yourself. Secondly, if you want to beat records that maybe you've set or records that you decide to aim for and you want to beat them, then it's what one of the most well-known people in the field of personal development, Mr. Tony Robbins, talks about, CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. CANI, C-A-N-I, constant and never-ending improvement. Is it worth it? Or should we all just sit back, cross our arms and put our feet up and not do very much? And that's what a lot of people do, but that's where I see that a lot of worry and doubt and frustration sits because people are not living up to the expectations that they probably have somewhere deep inside. Is it a universal truth that we have the ability to learn and grow? And how do we learn and grow? And this is where it gets really interesting, my friends. We learn and grow by failing. I don't know how many of you ever watched some of the TV programs like Dancing on Ice or Strictly Come Dancing, where you get celebrities who learn to dance on ice or dance ballroom with professional dancers. And it's really interesting to see the ones who often succeed. The ones who are often most successful are people who have come from a sporting background. Well, why a sporting background? Anyone who's had any success in sporting, in a sporting world, has had trials and tribulations in which they've failed, but they've had to learn from those failings. One of the most popular expressions I know is lessons in life are repeated until they are learned. And I'm sure if you looked at your life, you could think, wow, I seem to have had the same test and seem to have gone round that circle before, and I keep having similar tests. But many of you probably passed the tests and moved on only for another test. So sporting people are really, really used to failing at things and learning to get better, but they've also learned to train to stick at things until they get better. And for most of us, there's not a big calling for us to do that. It's just very easy to be like everyone else. So listen, this is something that my mum said last week. I've got it written down in front of me here. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. Let's say that again. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better best. What a great mantra for living your life. I'd write that down. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better best. You see, when you see happy people and you go to their house, you'd see happy people who've always got projects that they're working on. And often with their projects, they want things to be better. Even if you go into a garden where someone like gardening, you probably see each year they want their garden to be a little bit better than it was last year. Someone who grows vegetables, every year they probably want better vegetables, bigger vegetables. That is what we have the capacity to do. So finally, my challenge to all of you around this, around getting on a winning streak, is understand this. The hardest thing often to do is just to get started. Just the hardest thing. It's what we call activation energy. When we think of doing something, it's so easy to talk ourselves out of it. But once you get into the habit of doing something, the inspiration tends to follow. So let me ask you, what is something you would like to get on a winning streak to do? Would you like to get on a winning streak of keeping a journal? Would you like to get on a winning streak of being a better communicator to your partner? Would you like to get on a winning streak of exercising? You see, if you give yourself, people used to say, how long does it take to start a new habit? 21 times, 30 times. I think it can happen as quickly as you decide to just get started. It's an incredible mantra. So let's just review what we've said here. Do you want to enter into the biggest and best competition of your entire life, which is the competition with yourself? If you do, you might want to get a mentor. You might want to get some coaching. I believe everyone needs coaching. What's the role of a coach? To take you from A to B. Sometimes a coach has to help you work out where it is that you want to go. Do you want to outperform yourself? Do you want to set records? Well, to set a record, let's decide what you want to go on a winning streak to do. Could you be like the Arsenal football team and have a 47-game winning streak? Or could you be like Martina Navratilova, who went from 1975 to 1990 winning a Grand Slam every single year? Or would you like to be like the golfer Byron Nelson, who won 11 PGA events in consecutive, one after another? It's amazing what people are capable of doing, but this is what we need. Those of you that are watching this as opposed to listening to this is a chisel. How we develop our character. The word character comes from the word to chisel away at developing ourselves. And it's the little things that we often do every day that chisels all the bits out that we don't need in our life as we reveal our true selves to the world. Mi365 is committed to being a positive force in your life. What has been your biggest learning? What's your biggest takeaway from this podcast? If you've enjoyed it, please make a comment on the page, make a comment on iTunes, make a comment on the Mi365 website page that this podcast sits on, and share it. Share it with a few people. Ask other people to listen and get their feedback. We need people just like you to step up and be counted and be committed to being a great example to other people. We need all of us to go forth, or as I like to say, grow forth. At Mi365, we believe fundamentally your future is unwritten and you have the power to change. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time for another Mi365 podcast. All the best. Much love.